Have you ever stared at a stock chart with all its crazy zigzags and just thought, is this whole thing random? Well, you're not alone. Today, we're diving deep into the world of quantitative finance to see if we can find some order in all that chaos.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle this idea of the market's random walk. Then, we'll see how quantitative finance is supposed to be the solution. We're going to meet the key players, check out the tools they use, and then get into the big debate. Are markets rational or just plain irrational? And finally, we'll ask why any of this chaos actually matters.
So, to really get a handle on quantitative finance, we first got to understand the problem it's trying to solve. And that core problem, really, is that the market often feels completely and utterly unpredictable. Yeah, I mean, if you've ever pulled up a stock chart, you know exactly what I'm talking about. All those jagged lines zipping up and down, it's a totally natural response to look at that and just wonder, is there any logic here at all, or is this just pure, unadulterated chaos? And, there's a fantastic metaphor for this that gets right to the heart of the matter: the drunkard's walk. Seriously, this is probably the single most important idea in all of quant finance. Picture this: a drunkard stumbling home from the pub. You have no idea if his very next step is going to be left, right, or maybe straight into a lamppost. But, and this is the key, you can use math to analyze the overall pattern of his journey. That, in a nutshell, is the core idea behind trying to tame the market. Okay, so if the market is basically this random stumbling drunk, how on earth does anyone build a strategy around that? How do huge banks and investors make these billion-dollar decisions based on what looks like a total crapshoot? And that, my friends, is where our solution comes in. Quantitative finance, or quant for short, is basically the application of some pretty serious math. We're talking probability, statistics, the works, to the financial markets. Now, here's the thing. It's not a crystal ball. It doesn't claim to predict the future. But what it does do is help us manage risk and figure out what financial contracts are worth, in spite of all that randomness.
So, who are these people, these quants, actually using all these mathematical tools? Well, they generally fall into two distinct camps, and they're kind of like the yin and yang of the market, operating at totally opposite ends of the risk spectrum. So on one side, you've got the hedgers. These guys are all about playing it safe. Think of a big utility company that needs to buy natural gas in the future. They don't want to get wrecked by a surprise price spike, so they use finance to lock in a price today. They're reducing risk. Then on the other side, you have the speculators. Now these are the folks who often get a bad rap, seen as the big Wall Street gamblers, but they serve a really crucial purpose. Their constant buying and selling provides liquidity. That basically just means they make it easier for everyone else to find a buyer or a seller when they need one. So, what kind of firepower are these hedgers and speculators bringing to the table? What are these powerful tools they use to navigate the market's randomness? Well, they've got a whole arsenal of sophisticated and sometimes pretty controversial instruments at their disposal. And I'm not kidding when I say controversial. The legendary investor Warren Buffett himself famously gave these tools a terrifying nickname. He's talking about a category of instruments called derivatives. And while they can be incredibly dangerous if misused, they are also used every single day by countless organizations to protect themselves from financial risks. The first tool is an option, and the best way to think about it is like financial insurance. You pay a small fee, called a premium, for the right, but not the obligation, to sell your stocks at a set price if the market crashes. If it doesn't crash, well, all you've lost is that small insurance premium. It's protection without a huge commitment. Next up, futures. And believe it or not, this concept is ancient, dating all the way back to Babylonian farmers. A futures contract simply lets you lock in a price today for something you'll buy or sell later. For that farmer, it guarantees the price of their grain at harvest. For a modern corporation, it might lock in the price of oil or a foreign currency they'll need in 6 months. It's all about eliminating uncertainty. And then you have swaps, which are absolutely crucial for companies with massive loans. Imagine a company is paying a floating interest rate, one that goes up and down. If they're worried rates are about to shoot up, they can use a swap to trade their floating rate debt for a predictable, fixed rate payment. They're essentially swapping their risk with another party who has the opposite view. The very existence of these complex tools brings us to one of the most fundamental debates in all of finance. Are markets perfectly rational, reflecting all known information, or are they just driven by messy human emotions like fear and greed? The traditional academic view is known as the efficient market hypothesis. The theory basically argues that all available information is already baked into a stock's price. If that's true, prices only move in response to new, unpredictable information, following that random walk we talked about. And in this view, trying to beat the market is impossible. Now, this theory actually comes in three different flavors. The weak form says just looking at past price charts won't help you. The semi-strong form says even if you analyze every piece of public news, it's useless. And then there's the strong form, which makes the boldest claim of all, that even corporate insiders with secret information can't consistently beat the market. But then reality hits. As former Fed chairman Alan Greenspan famously warned way back during the dot-com bubble, markets can be driven by irrational exuberance. Sometimes prices just totally detach from reality and soar, fueled by pure hype and emotion, which, directly challenges that idea of a perfectly rational, efficient market.
So what's the bottom line here? We've got this constant tug of war between mathematical reason and human randomness, between careful hedging and speculative greed. What does it all mean for us? Okay, let's put it all together. The key takeaway is that markets are chaotic, but not perfectly random. Quantitative finance gives us the tools to navigate that uncertainty. We've seen how hedgers try to reduce risk, while speculators embrace it and provide that crucial liquidity. We know that derivatives can be used for protection or for speculation. But for most of us, the most powerful tool is also the simplest: diversification. It really is the closest thing to a free lunch in finance.
And this leaves us with a final, crucial question. If markets aren't perfectly efficient, then there have to be winners and losers. In those moments of chaos, who has the information, the speed, and the mathematical tools to come out on top?